That game was a lot of fun. It really felt like as soon as they started, the Canucks were full of confidence. And to me, it felt like Ottawa just really lacked skill, and that the Canucks were very confident and they were making plays looking like they had zero fear that Ottawa was going to stop them. And if they did, they just were playing like they were the better team from the puck drop. It's funny how you can just feel it, but you can just see the way that the Canucks are moving around, the plays they're making, the way they were holding onto the puck during line changes. And Ottawa just didn't have an answer for it. When I heard that Goodbranson had played the most time for them in the first period, and he ended up, by the end of the game, he had the second most minutes on defense. So they're really struggling there. I mean, it was dark days when we had Goodbranson here on defense. He was just awful. And he seems like a good person, good team guy, but he cannot be anywhere above your third pairing. Ottawa really struggled. Brandon Sutter opened the scoring in the first period, had a hat trick tonight. He was great, man. I'd like to see him. I know I'm always complaining like, I want to see Mott with people who can score more, or can move the puck around more. But I get that they use Mott a hell of a lot more in the third line, because Green was stuck with the third line of Gaudette, but he couldn't trust Gaudette to play, so he ended up playing the Mott line a heck of a lot more, which has Beagle. And I get that seems to work for defense, and maybe they can be kind of a shutdown line or something, but maybe moving forward, have Sutter and Mott play together. Sutter's not a great playmaker, and having them split up means you have these two guys with a bit of scoring touch in the bottom, but maybe pair them together while they're, while Sutter's feeling hot and moving around. Yeah, I mean, that goal was hilarious. Him, it's funny because the goal Sutter had, where he's got his back to the goalie, as he's falling to the ice, he backhands, basically like a no-look backhand knuckle puck up top. If that was Nathan McKinnon or Ovechkin, that would be a goal that people show for quite a while. I think it would be sort of like big highlight. And it's funny how when it's Sutter, people kind of pass it off as like, oh, it's just a lucky shot, where it's just not going to get the same props as it deserves. Oh, he was amazing. I'm so glad he got the hat trick. It was the happiest I've ever been to see a seventh goal in a 7-1 game. Tyler Mott scores a second goal, assisted from Big Beagle. Mott has just been great, and with Ottawa, I mean, again, like, Mott has skill. A lot of these guys have skill because they come, when they used to play in juniors and in the minors, they're probably the best players in their team, right? And Mott has always had that, and we saw that in the playoffs, that the guy's got hands. He's got finish, he's got poise, but he just rarely gets to play with anyone that can really keep up with him. And Beagle at times has shown that he can, he's got some offense too, but it's obviously going to be few and far between. So who knows, maybe moving forward, if you could just somehow get, I don't know why I even bring up Virtanen, but I mean, I don't know, Sutter, Mott, Virtanen, anything. But it worked. They were up 2 goals, and Ottawa looked like already they had no chance at that point. Watson gets him on the board in the second period. He ended up having a fight with, who was it? Was it with McEwen? And he gave him like a jiu-jitsu sort of flip over. And I thought that was probably wise. He looked like he was about to get pounded. Pearson and Sutter with a couple more goals. Pearson, it looks like he came in. Watson scored 11:58. Pearson 12:28. Just fired right back. Oh, that was that ridiculous Höglander goal assist. I mean, that was a Höglander goal. Pearson with the great finish, but everybody on the ice, the goalie and the 2 defensemen, were looking at Höglander. The effort he did in his own end, racing up the side. I mean, taking a hit, making a play, taking on 2 defenders, bringing those defenders over, and then the way he just dives down and passes that over, that was one of the best assists of the year. Oh man, you gotta love the way he plays. He just has that. he has what it takes to get points in the NHL, where it cannot always be pretty. Like a guy like Virtanen, he gets a lot of points in junior and stuff, where you can take your time and you watch the way he plays. Virtanen had this play near the end of the game, and it's near the end of the game in a 7-1 game. And a game that felt like it was over in the second period or the first period, basically. And Virtanen, you could tell he wanted to go off in a shift, and he just so lackadaisically handled the puck as he was looking for somebody to pass to, and it just thought, man, you just don't have that attitude and that mentality that you need, that Höglander has. Where you saw, like, Höglander's first points in the NHL are not beautiful, but they're about being in the right place at the right time. They're about, effort, of course, but like that 110% effort where you're playing like it's a playoff game. And I felt like in the last few games, he's definitely, after he started the season strong with a goal, it seemed like he was really struggling to figure out, how do I get around NHL defenders who they don't just watch skilled players, they don't watch the puck and get dipsy doodled too often. The NHL, they know, you just take the body, he's a smaller guy, so he needs to learn how to get around them. But I mean, this time he just out-willed them, and that was a really fantastic goal, and you're just so happy to see him on the team. Third period, Hughes pushed through the check they mentioned on the broadcast along the wall, kept the play alive, and just like a great NHL player, it's like it's automatic for them. You just watch him, he tracks it, they just sort of move with the puck, and the puck ends up coming to them, and they don't panic. The way he just sort of kicks the puck out and taps it in without even looking down, it's like these guys, the really good ones, it's all about the relationship with that puck and where it's going to go and how the play is developing. Really nice to see Levy get just rocket that shot. That was a really nice shot. I mean, Matt Murray was having a really rough game. Oh, let's get this ad out of the way. Matt Murray was having a really rough game, and he looked really pissed off that he let that one in. But it was a riser. It looked like it was sort of like a nice big line drive on the golf course, just rocketed up, and he looked so bashful about it. You could see him saying, "Aw, shucks." And then there's a nice bit of footage of Pearson in the replay going, "First goal," and then running off and getting the puck for him. Great to see. And then Brandon Sutter with an unassisted dipsy-do quadruple deke. Great to see. Hat trick for Brandon. The Canucks played with a lot more confidence, but to be the devil's advocate, it's easy to play with a lot of confidence against a team that doesn't have any pushback. The real test for an NHL team, of course, is when the other team is flying at you hard and is making plays and is tiring you out and not allowing you to regroup and is pressuring on the forecheck. And if you can still have gel together, work as a team, that's the real test. Although I will say, one of the best things I liked about what they did tonight is that the forwards were always back. So much more. It seemed like they had mentioned on 1040 that Travis Green was spotted in the practice, really focusing on the classic whiteboard, the X's and O's, going over the strategies with them and positioning. And I think that really changed, where they were just moving as a 5-man unit back, and they were rotating around, lots of movement, so that wherever you were, you had 2 or 3 options to pass to. It's all about that movement, because how many times have you seen hockey where if you get stuck in your own end and the defense, everyone's stagnant, and you don't want to be moving too much when you're on defense, but you need to have some movement, because if you're just stagnant, then when the puck is chipped out, you see them race towards it, but it's those offensive players in your zone that are zooming around, and they've got all the momentum. You can't be faster than somebody who's already moving, and you can't be faster than a puck. So you really have to know where it's going to go, and you need to have movement, and you need to support each other. And that's complicated, obviously, but they did a way better job of it now. So I was really impressed with that. And once you're doing that, then you're getting out of the zone, you're getting momentum, and you're moving it up. You're cycling around, you got all that motion and movement and then those sort of like bouncy passes, like, you know, a team is feeling it when they're going through that neutral zone. And it doesn't need to be beautiful tic-tac-toe. It just needs to be, get the puck up, it hits a bump, but because you got this movement, you're pushing it in, you're pushing through the checks, you're getting it deep, you're moving it around, now you've got them on their heels. And that's really how you score the majority of the time. It's not a video game. It's not always going to be like tape-to-tape, beautiful highlight reel plays. It's going to be just a unit moving forward and creating those chances and controlling a play. Hockey's really similar to rugby in that way, where it's more like just a momentum, a tide, a force. How fun is it going to be for Canucks fans and the Canucks? Like, they must be so excited that they get to see this team another 2 times this week and hopefully build up a lot more momentum, a lot more confidence. Pettersson looked better. First half of the game, noticed him a lot more. He was making more plays. He looked more dangerous. But still, him and Miller and Besser are they're not quite out of the woods yet. I talked about this in my last video that I recorded right before watching this game. It's been taking forever to upload. Hopefully it's up by the time this one's up. I was talking about Besser and his triple dekes. Did you see him do his triple dekes? He gets the puck, chop, 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 and then shoots. You can't do that, Besser. I'm not a fan of this guy for the potential $7 million. But like I said in the last video, I was talking about Brendan Sutter as well as somebody you love to have on your fourth line, just not at $4 million. And tonight he played like a $4 million player. Tonight he played like a $7 million player. He was great. So what do you do with the Lotto line? Do you move Miller to center? I know that Pettersson's had a pretty good couple seasons at center, and he was playing wing though. Somebody commented this that Pettersson was only playing wing in his last season in Sweden, but isn't that the most important season? The last season would be when you're facing the toughest competition, right? Unless you're in the same league and you came in as a youngster, now you're 1 year older against men. But I mean, if he's playing at the highest level and they move him to wing, I thought in the playoffs they keyed in on him and he struggled a bit. I know he was point a game, but sometimes you can be a point a game with while not being dominant to the way that we had expected from him. Oh my God, these ads are crazy. So who knows? Maybe try Miller at center. Maybe get Besser off that line. But do you really want to break up Horvat, Pearson, and Höglander now? No. Is it always just going to come down to Horvat having to take on the top lines and Pettersson taking on the secondary? I think he'll get going. I think he'll start playing better. The big news today was that he changed his agent. And now him and Hughes are going to have the same agent. Now, what I saw on Twitter from I forget who, I think it was Harmon, boy genius, was saying that Hughes is still limited in his leverage because of the type of free agent he's going to be, 10.2C or whatever. But now that Pettersson and him have the same agent, they might be able to leverage that to their advantage. I know that when they play the game, they're concentrating on the game, but when you're making huge business decisions, all while the team is really struggling, I don't think it's a good look. I think that it makes it seem like, well, you're thinking about yourself while the team is struggling, and you're also very conscious of this being a contract year to the point where you want to maximize it. Like everybody should. I'm not going to fault anybody for wanting to maximize the contract, but you probably should have done that in the offseason. I mean, how many times do you hear from NHL players that once the season starts, they go, no contract negotiations, and don't want to talk about it, don't want to think about it, don't want to be distracted. So I think he should have figured this out a couple months ago. He knew this was his contract season coming up. Hughes did as well. Don't be doing this during the biggest slump of your career, and also the Canucks opening up in the most intense year where you need to have a good start and having just a terrible start. So that's a bit questionable. Not really a good sign, but hopefully now that he switched over, he can stop thinking about it, and hopefully the agent's not in his ear all the time as they work on their strategy for what's asked for in a season. I mean, it's got to be a lot of extra pressure when you're playing for potentially one of the biggest contracts of your career. You never know what the future is going to hold. This could be the biggest one. And maybe not. I mean, the cap could go up and up, and his value could go up and up, but you never know. You could get like a horrible injury or something, and this could be like the big cash in. So obviously it's a big deal, but bad luck, bad timing. So I don't think if Ottawa keeps playing like this, I asked my Ottawa buddy Chris if he was watching the game tonight, and I told him, I said, I don't know what to expect. The Canucks have been embarrassing. And he said the Senators have not been much better. I mean, they look terrible. But I watched the Canucks play Ottawa last season. My dad came to the game. He flew out from BC to watch the game. Had not flown out to see me before that, but flew out to see the game and with me. And the Canucks played like dog shit. They played like they're playing now. And they got totally outworked by Ottawa in that game, and Ottawa looked great. They don't have a lot of standout skill, but they played their systems well. They pounced on everything. They made it difficult, and the Canucks came into Ottawa not ready, not mentally prepared, and they just got demolished. And I was worried that was going to happen this time, but this was just totally different. I mean, the Canucks generally, even since the playoffs, in all their worst games, they tend to come out strong. They have really strong first periods. So what is that? Is that coaching getting them prepared and then the players taking over and sagging? Or is that the players coming out fired up and then the coaching system's not supporting them when that momentum dies down for the next couple periods? Hopefully this is a sign that the coaching or strategies or systems or whatever has improved, and they can ride this in, and when they face tougher competition, they're going to be playing Montreal a lot this year, and Calgary, and Winnipeg, and Toronto. These are all good teams. And you're going to have your chances to beat up on Edmonton and Ottawa. I mean, I know I'm sounding pretty cocky, but we'll see what the next two games have. But hopefully those systems can allow them to play a strong game, weather the storm against these tough teams, these deep teams. I mean, Montreal's got Toffoli on the third line. Toronto's a really, really deep team, and they've increased their defense. Winnipeg just brought in two strong players for line A, and finally got that second line center they've been looking for a long time. So the competition's only getting tougher in the Canadian division, and I'm really pumped to see these next couple games. I'm pumped to see all these games, as long as it remains tight. I heard Jeff Patterson saying that I listen to a lot of 1040, the podcast version. Oh, and also if you listen to 1040, if you ever listen to the Halford and Bruff show, and you've heard the Dukes of Hazzard parody theme song called "Tank for the Hughes," they played it when they were when they were thinking about, when they had the potential to tank and draft Jack Hughes, for the opportunity to draft Jack Hughes. I sent it in there. And then they played it again when they were talking about tanking again and getting the next one, Travis Hughes or whatever his name is. Anyway, that's my song. Well, it's the Dukes of Hazzard song, but I sang over it and wrote those other lyrics. And I called Jay Beagle Jeff Beagle. Maybe that's why Trevor took off. Anyways, I love Halford and Bruff. I followed them a lot when they had the Curtain blog, and when I was working in Alberta doing seismic out in the middle of nowhere in minus 40, working my ass off, those guys and missing the Canucks, those guys really kept me sane, where every time there was a Canucks game, they were doing the post-game show. Oh, it was great, having an hour and a half, 2 hours of their banter and keeping me updated with the Canucks. It's just the best. So I was really happy to see that they came back to 1040. And then recently I've been checking out the first hour or so of Don Taylor and The Moj. I'm not really a fan of their producer when he talks too much, but Don Taylor is just just as good as he's better now. The guy keeps getting better. I used to listen to him a lot when I was working in Nanaimo when he was on with Pratt, and hadn't really heard him much since then. And he's just so good. He has a way of like really elevating the people that he works with. He does offer a little something more than Halford and Bruff do, where I find Halford and Bruff have interesting opinions, good sense of humor, but I find Don Taylor and even the Moj actually focus a bit more on what's actually happening in the game and individual plays, and they tend to have pretty good takes, and they go through the roster a bit more. It's a bit more sort of like hockey and strategy centric, whereas I think Halford and Bruff are a bit more of like a feel and personality and a bit more jokey. And sometimes I wish they'd dig a little deeper, but they are what they are. I used to listen to a lot of Scaris and Price too, back when I was stuck driving and before you could get all this stuff on podcasts. I mean, it's so amazing to listen to it on podcasts where I never have to listen to commercials. I don't have to sit there and wait. Boring segments, I got my wireless headphones, skip. Oh, it's the best, man. I love it. If you want me to put this on a podcast, I guess I could. Let me know. But for now, thanks for watching. And let me know what you thought of the game. And yeah, thanks for watching.